This was the most bone-chilling night of my life. So, it was just a regular Tuesday evening. I had finished binge-watching some random stuff on Netflix, and I was ready to call it a night. Little did I know, things were about to take a seriously messed up turn. As I settled into bed, the creaks in my old house seemed a bit louder than usual. I chalked it up to the usual creepy sounds an old place makes. You know, the kind that makes you think twice but never really freaks you out. I must have dozed off, but suddenly I was jolted awake by the sound of shuffling downstairs. My heart started racing, and I could feel the sweat on my palms. I tried convincing myself it was just the wind or some weird night noise, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I tiptoed to the bedroom door, hoping I was just being paranoid, but as I reached the top of the stairs, I saw the front door wide open. Panic set in. I never leave it unlocked, and I live alone. My mind raced with a million thoughts, and I felt a chill down my spine. I could hear hushed whispers echoing through the hallway. My instincts kicked in, and I ducked into the nearest room, praying I hadn't been seen. From my hiding spot, I saw shadows moving around, their intentions unclear. I couldn't make out their faces, but the feeling of dread was suffocating. I reached for my phone to dial 911, but my trembling fingers betrayed me. Suddenly, the power went out. Complete darkness. I held my breath, trying to stay silent. The intruders were getting closer, and my heart pounded in my ears. I finally managed to dial 911, whispering my address and the situation. The operator assured me help was on the way, but I knew I had to survive until then. The only sound I could hear was my own rapid breathing and the soft footsteps of the intruders searching room by room. I felt like a cornered animal, praying they wouldn't find me. Every creak of the floorboard sent shivers down my spine. The minutes felt like hours. I heard them getting closer to my hiding spot, and I clutched my phone, ready to use it as a last resort. Suddenly, the police sirens wailed in the distance, and the intruders panicked. I heard them scramble out of the house just as the first responders arrived. The relief was overwhelming. Now, I'm sharing this with you because you never know when your ordinary night can turn into a nightmare. Trust your instincts, stay alert, and keep your doors locked. I'm still shaken from the experience, and I hope none of you ever have to go through something like this. Stay safe.
This is a cautionary tale about letting strangers into your space, even if they seem trustworthy. So, my friend Sarah had gone on a holiday, leaving me in charge of her place, watering the plants, and making sure everything was in order. Last Tuesday, as I was tending to the garden, a man approached me, claiming to be a neighbor named John. He said Sarah had asked him to keep an eye on the house while she was away. Being the friendly and trusting person I am, I let him in without a second thought. Big mistake. Once inside, John's demeanor shifted. He started acting strangely, pacing around the living room and muttering under his breath. I asked if everything was okay, and that's when things took a dark turn. John turned to me with this sinister grin and said, "You shouldn't trust anyone, especially strangers. You never know who might be watching." His words sent a shiver down my spine, and I could feel the atmosphere in the room change. Nervously, I tried to make light of the situation, asking him about his connection to Sarah, but he just kept rambling, saying things like, "You're not safe here. They're always watching. You think you're alone, but you're never alone." My heart raced as paranoia crept in. I started to regret ever letting him inside. I needed a way out, but John seemed fixated on keeping me in a state of fear. As I desperately looked for an excuse to get him to leave, a knock echoed through the house. A delivery driver with a parcel for Sarah. I seized the opportunity, telling John I needed to grab the package. He reluctantly stepped outside. Once the door closed, I locked it and called the police, my hands trembling as I recounted the bizarre encounter. The officers arrived quickly, but John was long gone, leaving no trace. The chilling part? Sarah had no idea who this John person was, and she had never asked anyone to watch her house. It's a stark reminder to be cautious even in familiar settings. Trust your instincts, and don't let anyone into your personal space without verifying their identity.
I was home alone, enjoying a lazy evening. Around midnight, I decided to head to bed, but just as I was getting comfy, I heard this strange tapping noise at my bedroom window. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a tree branch or something. However, the tapping persisted. growing louder and more insistent. That's when the unease set in. I reached for my phone to call a friend, but before I could dial, the power went out. Complete darkness enveloped my room, and the tapping continued, now accompanied by low whispers. My heart pounded as I fumbled for a flashlight. When I finally found it, I aimed it towards the window. My blood ran cold. There was a silhouette outside, peering in. I couldn't see their face, but the feeling of dread was horrible. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering my address. As I waited for help, the tapping turned into banging, and I heard the unmistakable sound of glass breaking. Panic surged through me. Someone was breaking into my house, and I was trapped in my room. I barricaded the door with whatever I could find, praying that the intruder wouldn't get through. But their footsteps echoed through the hallway, getting closer and closer. I could feel my pulse in my throat as I clutched the phone, desperate for the police to arrive. The intruder began pounding on my bedroom door, demanding entry. My mind raced, and I considered jumping out the window, but I was too afraid one of them was still out there. The police dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, but time crawled at a snail's pace. I shouted, "The police are on their way." The banging suddenly stopped. I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching. The intruders must have heard it too, because I heard them hastily retreating. When the police arrived, they searched the premises, but the intruders had vanished. I was left shaken, with my home in disarray. It's a horrifying experience that has left me on edge. The feeling of vulnerability and the fear that gripped me that night is something I wouldn't wish on anyone.
I need to share an unsettling experience that happened to me recently, and it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. This is a real account, and the details still give me chills. It was a stormy night, rain beating against the windows and thunder rumbling through the air. I was alone, wrapped in blankets on the couch, the storm amplifying every creak and groan in my old house. A typical night turned eerie. Out of nowhere, a tapping sound cut through the storm's symphony. I followed it to a figure outside, barely visible through the rain. Despite my initial reservations, I opened the door, thinking someone might need help from the storm. The stranger, a soaked individual named Alex, claimed to be a neighbor from down the street. I decided to let him in to get out of the rain. However, once inside, things took an unexpected turn. Alex's demeanor shifted and an unease settled in. As Alex dried off, our conversation turned strange. He started asking odd questions about the house, its history, and the previous owners. The atmosphere grew tense as Alex whispered about hidden passages and shadows watching our every move. Considering the bizarre turn of events, I contemplated calling the police, but held off. The storm outside intensified. Alex's ramblings became more erratic, detailing unseen forces conspiring against us. In a sudden shift, a loud clap of thunder exploded above the house, an ominous sound that shattered the strange spell. Alex abruptly left, disappearing into the stormy night. I locked up and called the police, but when they arrived, there was no sign of Alex. It left me questioning the thin line between a bizarre encounter and a potential threat. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within me, leaving me haunted by the unsettling events.
So, it was a regular night, just me and the comfort of my own space. Little did I know, someone else had plans for my night, and they weren't invited. I heard a noise downstairs, just those typical settling sounds. But then, it got real, clear footsteps, in my own home, alone. That's when my heart started to race, and I knew something was off. I cautiously went down the stairs, and there he was, a complete stranger, rummaging through my stuff. I froze. My safe haven had been invaded by this guy, and I had to think fast. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and hid in the kitchen, trying to stay calm. The operator assured me that help was on the way, but meanwhile, this guy was muttering about finding something valuable. Completely unaware I was there. The police sirens in the distance signaled their arrival. The guy must have heard it because he made a run for it, vanishing into the night. The police searched the area, but he was long gone. Left alone, I was a mix of fear and confusion. What was he after? Why my place? That night changed me. Now I double-check the locks and make sure my home is secure.